Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the fascinating and honestly kind of urgent worldview of philosopher Luciano Floridi. We're going to be exploring the actual, real threat of the digital age. And spoiler alert, you can forget all those Hollywood sci-fi movies where robots take over the planet. The real danger we're facing is something much closer to home and a whole lot quieter. It's the potential loss of our very own human meaning.
So think about this for a second. What if the greatest threat from artificial intelligence isn't that it's going to outsmart us, but that we will willingly flatten our own world just to accommodate it? Like I said, AI isn't about to conquer us like in some Terminator movie. Instead, something way more subtle but absolutely crucial is happening right under our noses.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second and track how our view of ourselves has shifted over time. Floridi points out that humanity has actually suffered four big, let's call them narcissistic wounds. First, Copernicus came along and showed us, hey, we aren't the center of the universe. Then Darwin proved we aren't totally separate from the animal kingdom. Later, Freud revealed that actually our own minds aren't even fully transparent to us. And finally, the fourth revolution, driven by Alan Turing, showed us that we are absolutely no longer the unique, undisputed masters of information processing and agency.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The essence of this Turing revolution is basically a massive divorce. We've effectively separated agency, which is just the ability to successfully complete a task, from intelligence, the conscious understanding required to actually do it. Your smartphone plays chess way better than a human grandmaster, right? But not because it understands the philosophy or the beauty of the game. It's because we successfully divorced smart agency from true human intelligence.
So the crucial takeaway here is that AI is essentially just a massive reservoir of smart agency. It entirely lacks consciousness, semantics, or any real understanding. Think of it kind of like electricity. It's a wildly powerful resource you can tap into to solve problems, sure, but it has absolutely zero intelligence to grasp the significance of what it's actually doing.
All right, let's move on to Section 1, Hyperhistory and the Envelope.
For thousands of years, humanity lived in what we just call history, where we use technology simply to record and transmit information. But we've crossed a line now into what Floridi calls hyperhistory. This is a state where our well-being, the economy, our social structures, they are all completely dependent on digital infrastructure to survive. Literally, if a massive cyber attack takes down the grid today, society doesn't just lose its records, it drops to its knees. Basically, those who live by the digit die by the digit.
And because of this incredibly deep dependency, we now exist in an on-life reality. Honestly, asking someone if they're online or offline today is like, well, it's a relic of the 90s. Floridi beautifully compares our current society to a mangrove forest, where the fresh water of the analog physical world and the salt water of the digital world are completely blended together. We live right there in the brackish water of the Infosphere.
But wait, if these machines are so fundamentally mindless and lack true intelligence, why are they succeeding so wildly everywhere we look? Well, the answer is a concept called enveloping. See, we are actively redesigning our physical and cultural environments so that blind, mindless machines can operate successfully inside them.
I love this analogy. It perfectly hits the nail on the head. Think about your dishwasher. We didn't build a highly intelligent, humanoid robot that stands at your kitchen sink with a sponge, right? Instead, we built a 3D box, isolated that environment, and just stuck a spinning hose inside. We didn't make the machine smarter, we flattened our environment into a machine-friendly box so a quote-unquote stupid mechanism could succeed.
And this is where the red flags really start popping up. The danger of this enveloping process is profound. The real risk isn't some sci-fi robot uprising. It's that we are entirely willing to hollow out our own world to make room for stupid machines to succeed. We run the very real risk of designing our cities solely for driverless cars instead of human beings, and flattening our complex, messy human experiences just so algorithms can process them easily.
Moving right along, let's dive into Section 2, Humans as Semantic Engines.
Look, AI is always going to process raw data at speeds we literally cannot comprehend. But us, we are the only semantic engines. We're the ones who give that raw data its significance, its purpose, and its value. A machine can easily identify the chemical composition of a teardrop, sure, but only a human actually understands the profound sadness or joy behind it.
And that brings us to the absolute core concept of Floridi's philosophy, semantic capital.
Just like we have social capital or financial capital, semantic capital is the fundamental glue holding our modern society together. It's the inherited, enriched wealth of meaning that we rely on every single day to make sense of the world around us.
So what exactly makes up this capital? Well, it's kind of the whole shebang. It's our spoken and written languages, our great scientific discoveries, classical art, our inherited traditions, and profound philosophical ideas. It is the accumulated wealth of everything we use to construct a narrative of who we are, and it completely distinguishes us from even the absolute most advanced smart technologies out there.
So the million-dollar question becomes, in an absolute ocean of digital data, swimming around in this Onlife Infosphere, how do we actually apply the semantic capital? How do we take all this cold, raw data and weave it back into a warm, meaningful human story? Floridi uses a couple of fancy terms here, data philology and anagnoresis, but honestly, don't let the jargon intimidate you. It essentially just means taking raw, cold data and turning it into a human narrative. We do this by actively looking backward, reinterpreting our past, and using our classic texts and histories to build a hopeful, meaningful future. Which leads us perfectly into our final section, preserving meaning in a post-truth world.
Here's the catch, though. This semantic capital, it's incredibly fragile and it faces some severe risks right now. One huge risk is museification, which is basically when we treat human knowledge like a dead museum exhibit, locked behind glass, rather than a living, breathing tool. Other risks include the total devaluation of truth through fake news, flattening complex human debates into simple binary clicks, and cultural appropriation. Bottom line, if we don't actively use and enrich our meaning, we're going to lose it.
So, how do we fix this? To survive and thrive, Floridi proposes a synthesis, a marriage of the green and the blue. We absolutely must marry our advanced blue digital technologies and smart agency with deep green ecological and societal care. We have to actively design an environment where technology serves human flourishing and definitely not the other way around. At the end of the day, the machines aren't riding in to save us. And, they aren't coming to destroy us either. They are just highly capable, mindless tools. The real human project, the massive task of stewarding meaning and designing a hopeful future, rests entirely 100% on our shoulders.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final, provocative thought to chew on. As we build the infrastructure of tomorrow, are we going to willingly hollow out our world just to make it easier for mindless machines to operate? Or will we rise to the challenge, claim our unique role as semantic engines, and actively steward the meaning of humanity in this on-life world? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep asking the right questions.
I was looking at furniture online the other day, actually, specifically couches.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed this really bizarre trend in the customer reviews. Like, people weren't talking about whether the couch was comfortable.
Right.
Or, the quality of the fabric or those lumbar support or whatever. They were obsessing over the exact measurement of the legs.
I know exactly where this is going.
Right. Like, specifically, whether the clearance underneath the couch was high enough for their robotic vacuum.
The Roomba clearance.
Exactly, the Roomba clearance. They needed to know if their little robot could fit under it.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know, it hit me in this very strange, almost unsettling way.
It is unsettling, yeah.
We aren't just buying furniture for ourselves anymore. We are literally redesigning the physical architecture of our living rooms.
Yeah.
Changing the spaces where we, sit and live and breathe just to accommodate a mindless, spinning plastic disc.
It's a profound observation, really, and it cuts straight to the heart of what we are going to explore today.
It feels so backwards.
It does. Because we often tell ourselves this grand narrative, right? That technology is adapting to us, that we are creating these brilliant machines to seamlessly fit into our human lives.
Right, the whole smart home pitch.
Exactly. But if you look closely at the modern world, the exact opposite is happening. We are the ones doing the adapting.
Wow, yeah.
We are flattening our physical reality, we're standardizing our behaviors, and we're redesigning our environments to suit the extremely rigid limitations of, well, mindless machines.
Okay, let's unpack this because this is huge. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today, we are immersing ourselves in the philosophy of Luciano Floridi.
A brilliant thinker.
Truly. And we're exploring a singular, incredibly vital theme for our modern age, which is semantic capital and the search for meaning.
Right.
Our mission today for you, the listener, is to figure out how we survive and actually thrive in a world that feels increasingly automated and algorithmic.
And flattened, like we just said.
Exactly. We're going to explore what it means to be a semantic engine, how we build and protect our semantic capital, and why the real existential threat isn't, some dramatic sci-fi robot rebellion.
Far from it.
Right? The real threat is much quieter. It's the slow, voluntary flattening of our rich, chaotic human experience just to make things easier for the machines.
And to truly grasp the magnitude of this shift, we first have to understand how humanity arrived at this moment of vulnerability.
Because we didn't just get here overnight.
No, not at all. Because if we are being honest, human beings have historically possessed a very high opinion of themselves.
We really have. We love being the center of attention.
We do. We have always placed ourselves at the absolute center of the narrative. But over the centuries, we have experienced a series of profound philosophical demotions.
I love that phrase, philosophical demotion.
Yeah, Floridi contextualizes our current technological crisis by looking back at what he calls the four great revolutions. Revolutions that systematically dismantled human exceptionalism.
It's like the universe keeps handing us these massive collective reality checks. Let's walk through those because the historical context is just fascinating.
So the first major blow to the collective human ego was the Copernican revolution in the 16th century.
Right, Nicholas Copernicus.
Exactly. Prior to him, the prevailing cosmological model, and the one fiercely upheld by the institutions of power and religion, was geocentric.
Earth at the center.
Right. Humanity believed with absolute certainty that the Earth was the fixed, unmoving center of the entire universe. The sun, the moon, the stars, everything literally revolved around us. We were the focal point of creation.
It is hard for us to even comprehend how comforting that worldview must have been.
Oh, incredibly comforting.
To just look up at the night sky and genuinely believe that the entire cosmos was a magnificent theater built specifically for your benefit.
Right. And then Copernicus comes along, backed by mathematical observation, and completely shatters that comforting illusion.
Just ruins the party.
Totally. He introduces the heliocentric model, proving that the Earth actually revolves around the sun. We are not the center.
You're just a rock.
Just one of several planets orbiting an average star in a vast, completely indifferent cosmos. It displaced humanity from the center of the physical universe.
Which was a big deal.
It was a profound psychological trauma for society at the time.
A huge hit to the ego.
Yeah.
But, human resilience being what it is, we adapted.
We all do.
We recalibrated our specialness. We basically said, okay, fine, we aren't the geographical center of the universe. We are riding on a rock in space. But on this rock, we are fundamentally different from everything else.
Right, the pinnacle of creation.
Exactly. We told ourselves we're separated from the animals by a divine spark.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the second great demotion, the Darwinian Revolution in the 19th century.
Oh boy. Charles Darwin.
Yeah. He publishes On the Origin of Species, and he demonstrates the mechanism of natural selection. He proves that humanity did not spontaneously appear in our current elevated form.
We evolved.
We evolved. We share common ancestry with the apes. We are inextricably linked to the biological continuum of the entire planet.
And Victorian society absolutely lost its mind over this.
Completely. Because it displaced us from the center of the biological world. We could no longer claim a fundamental, unbridgeable divide between ourselves and the rest of the animal kingdom.
We were just another branch on the tree.
Just another branch subject to the same brutal, indifferent forces of nature as a beetle or a bird.
So we take that second massive hit, and again, we scramble to find our unique pedestal.
We just can't help ourselves.
We concede the biology. We say, all right, biologically, we are animals, but we are the rational animals.
Ah, yes.
The mind. Right. Our bodies might be primate, but our minds are pure, crystalline engines of logic. We are entirely transparent to ourselves, fully conscious, and in absolute control of our own thoughts and actions.
Which brings us to the late 19th and early 20th century, the third revolution, the Freudian revolution.
Sigmund Freud enters the chat.
Exactly. Freud and the subsequent birth of psychoanalysis, neuroscience, and modern psychology revealed the immense power of the unconscious mind.
Which was terrifying to people.
It was. Freud showed us that we are not the masters of our own mental houses. Our behaviors, our desires, our decisions, They are heavily driven by deep-seated impulses, repressed memories, and cognitive biases.
Things we don't fully control.
Or even consciously understand. So we were displaced from the center of the realm of pure rational consciousness.
It is just a relentless dismantling.
It really is.
We are not the center of space.
Yeah.
We're not biologically unique, and we aren't even fully in control of our own rational thoughts.
But wait, there's more.
Right. Because even after Freud, we still clung to one final desperate crown. We thought, okay, we might be small, evolved, and somewhat irrational, but we are undeniably the only entities in existence capable of high-level intelligent agency.
The only ones who can process complex information.
Exactly. The only things that can solve intricate problems and execute sophisticated tasks.
And that brings us to the present day, the fourth revolution. The Turing revolution.
Alan Turing.
Alan Turing, the brilliant mathematician and computer scientist. He fundamentally changed our relationship with information.
How so?
Well, the Turing revolution proved that you can engineer machines, computing devices that can process information, recognize patterns, and solve incredibly complex logistical and mathematical problems far faster and more efficiently than the human brain ever could.
Oh, wow. So we have been displaced again.
Displaced from the center of the informational realm. We are no longer the unique, undisputed masters of intelligent agency. We have to share the informational space with artificial agents.
Agents that completely outpace us.
Exactly. In terms of speed, memory, and calculation, they leave us in the dust.
And this displacement is the root cause of the modern anxiety we feel surrounding technology, isn't it?
It absolutely is. We are trying to navigate a reality where our unique value proposition in the universe is no longer based on our ability to process data or execute tasks.
Because the machines do it better.
Right. And this shift isn't just philosophical. It has completely rewired the structural foundation of human society. Flaherty outlines this by tracking how human history is defined by our relationship with information.
Let's break that down, actually, because he divides human existence into these three distinct eras based on how we interact with data.
Yes.
First, there is prehistory. And to clarify for everyone listening, we aren't talking about the Jurassic period here.
No dinosaurs. In an informational context, prehistory refers to a state where a society exists without any information and communication technologies, no ICTs.
Right, so no alphabet.
Exactly. No written language, no method of recording the present moment to pass down to future generations. Their entire societal memory relies on fragile oral traditions.
And there's still some societies like that today, right?
A very small number of isolated indigenous communities today still exist in this prehistorical, pre-ICT state. Yes.
Got it. Then we cross the threshold into history.
Right. History, which encompasses the last 6,000 years or so of human civilization, is defined by a specific relationship to technology. In the historical era, human well-being, the economy, and social structures become connected to information and communication technologies.
Connected, but not entirely dependent. That's a key distinction.
It is. Think of the Roman Empire or the Ming Dynasty. These vast civilizations relied heavily on written records, agricultural ledgers, legal codexes, communication networks.
To organize armies and select taxes.
Precisely. ICTs were powerful tools. However, if those records temporarily failed, like, say, a library burned down or a courier was intercepted, it was certainly a setback.
A huge bummer.
A massive bummer. But the society itself wouldn't instantly evaporate. People still knew how to farm, how to build, how to survive on a localized level.
Because the core survival didn't require a digital network.
Right, but we aren't living in history anymore. We have crossed another, much more dangerous threshold.
Okay, here we go.
We have entered what Flaherty terms hyperhistory.
Hyperhistory.
Yes. In a hyperhistorical society, human well-being, our economic survival, and our fundamental social structures are no longer merely connected to digital infrastructure. They are entirely, inextricably dependent on it.
And that word dependent, it carries a lot of terrifying weight.
It changes the entire paradigm of societal collapse.
Because the stakes are so much higher now.
Infinitely higher. You know, a society is hyper-historical when a failure of its digital infrastructure can literally bring the nation to its knees within hours.
Wow. Hours.
Hours. Think about the cascading effects of a massive coordinated cyber attack on a modern nation state. If the digital grid goes down, the banking system completely fuses.
You can't use your credit card.
You can't buy anything. Supply chains and logistics halt, meaning grocery stores empty out in days.
Because the trucks don't know where to go.
Exactly. Water purification plants, which are entirely computer-controlled, shut down. Hospitals lose access to medical records and diagnostic machines.
Everything just stops.
In hyperhistory, we live by the digit and we die by the digit.
Wait, I need to stop you there and push back on this whole premise for a second.
Sure.
If we accept that we are no longer the primary drivers of information processing,
Right.
and we also accept that our entire hyperhistorical survival is 100% dependent on these digital networks, aren't we essentially surrendering control?
It certainly feels that way.
I mean, humans are still the ones programming the AI, writing the algorithms, building the server farms. So aren't we still fundamentally in the driver's seat, just using very fast tools?
It is a crucial distinction, and it touches on a massive cultural misunderstanding about what AI actually is. We are building the tools, yes, but the tools are beginning to act autonomously in environments they control better than we do.
Right.
The anxiety you are expressing, this fear of losing the driver's seat, is entirely valid, but it is often misdirected by popular culture.
You mean the sci-fi obsession?
Exactly.
The idea that if machines are doing all this complex thinking, they must be, waking up.
Precisely. Flaherty strongly argues that we need to aggressively deconstruct this mythological science fiction narrative of AI.
The Terminator scenario.
The Terminator scenario, the impending singularity where machines magically achieve consciousness and decide to conquer humanity. These narratives are not just wrong, they are a dangerous distraction.
He calls it a mass distraction.
Right.
Like a magic trick where you look at the flashy hand while the other hand picks your pocket.
That's a great way to put it. Or, to use one of his more provocative comparisons, he likens the fear of conscious AI to the logic of a Nigerian email scam.
I found that comparison hilarious when I was prepping for this. But walk us through the actual logic of it. How is AI fear like an email scam?
So the Nigerian scam works by exploiting a specific logical fallacy. It confuses what is logically possible with what is practically plausible.
Okay, break that down.
Imagine you receive an email stating that a long-lost uncle in a foreign country has died and left you $40 million.
We've all gotten that email.
Right. And you just need to wire $2,000 in administrative fees to release the funds.
Seems legit.
Right. Now, apply strict logic. Is it logically possible that you have a secret, wildly wealthy uncle you've never heard of?
I mean, yeah, technically. In the infinite realm of possibilities, it could happen.
Does that mean it is plausible? Absolutely not. Should you act on it and send your money?
Definitely not.
So we apply that exact same flawed logic to artificial intelligence.
Let's see.
People look at the rapid advancement of technology and say, if AI becomes super intelligent and conscious, then it will inevitably decide to destroy us or enslave us. Therefore, we must panic and prepare for a war against the machines.
Right, sending the $2,000 basically.
Exactly. Is it logically possible in some abstract philosophical realm that silicon could spontaneously develop consciousness? Perhaps.
But is it plausible?
Based on the actual rigorous science of computer engineering and artificial intelligence, it is entirely implausible. We have absolutely zero idea how to engineer consciousness.
We don't even know what it is.
We don't even fully understand how human consciousness works in our own brains, let alone how to code it into a microchip. Worrying about Skynet is like worrying about a ghost invasion. It distracts us from the very real, very mundane threats that AI actually poses right now.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate again here.
Go for it.
If they aren't intelligent, if they have zero consciousness, how are they doing things that seem undeniably smart?
Give me an example.
I can open my phone right now, speak fluent English into an app, and it instantly, flawlessly translates it into Mandarin audio, complete with tonal inflections.
Right.
A machine just beat the world's greatest grandmasters at chess and Go, executing strategies that human experts had never even conceived of. How can you look at that and say there is zero intelligence there?
Because we are witnessing a phenomenon that Flaherty calls the divorce of agency from intelligence.
The divorce of agency from intelligence.
This is the defining characteristic of modern AI, and it requires a complete rewiring of how we perceive problem solving.
How so?
Well, throughout all of human history, up until the Turing revolution, agency and intelligence were intrinsically linked.
They went hand in hand.
Exactly. If you saw a complex problem being solved, say a mathematical equation being balanced or a game of chess being won, you naturally assumed that a high level of conscious intelligence was required to achieve that outcome.
Because only a smart human could do it.
Right. But modern AI represents a divorce of those two traits. AI possesses an incredibly high level of agency.
And agency just means the ability to act.
Yes, the ability to execute actions, achieve goals, and solve problems successfully in a given environment. However, it achieves this immense agency with absolutely zero intelligence, consciousness, or semantic understanding.
I think people really struggle with this because the word intelligence is right there in the name. Artificial intelligence, it feels like a massive misnomer.
It is a terrible misnomer. To truly grasp the intelligence level of an advanced AI, you need to think about the intelligence of a common household appliance. Think about your refrigerator.
Okay. My refrigerator, it keeps my groceries at a stable 38 degrees.
Exactly. What is the conscious intelligence level of that refrigerator?
I mean, it's zero. It's literally just a compressor and a thermostat.
Precisely. The AI that beats a human grandmaster at chess has the exact same level of conscious semantic intelligence as your refrigerator.
Zero.
Zero. It does not know what a game is. It does not feel the competitive thrill of winning or the sting of defeat. It does not even know what a physical chess piece represents in reality. All it is doing is processing mathematical probabilities, evaluating millions of potential move trees per second at a computational speed we cannot even fathom.
Just doing math incredibly fast.
You do not need to be intelligent to execute a specific mathematically definable task perfectly. You just need massive processing power and an algorithmic goal.
You know, the sources we looked at for this deep dive outline a fascinating linguistic test
Yeah.
that perfectly demonstrates this complete lack of actual understanding.
The Winograd schema.
Yes. The Winograd schema. I had never heard of this before, but it completely shattered any illusion I had that language models actually understand what I'm saying to them.
The Winograd schema is a brilliant tool for exposing the difference between syntactic processing, which AI excels at, and semantic understanding, which AI lacks entirely.
Let's walk through how it works because it's so clear.
Please do.
Okay, so it relies on very simple sentences containing an ambiguous pronoun. And the correct interpretation requires real-world contextual knowledge. Here's the classic example. The sentence is, the city councilman refused the demonstrators a permit because they feared violence.
A perfectly normal, straightforward sentence.
Right. Now, if I ask you who feared violence,
Yeah.
you instantly, effortlessly know that they refers to the city councilman.
Because I'm a human.
Exactly. Why do you know it? Because you have a lived human understanding of social dynamics, power structures, and the fact that politicians generally fear protests turning violent.
I have context. Now change one word in that sentence.
Okay, the second sentence is, the city councilman refused the demonstrators a permit because they advocated violence.
Okay.
I ask you again, who advocated violence? Instantly, they now refers to the demonstrator.
Because demonstrators are the ones protesting, potentially getting aggressive.
Right. The grammatical structure of the sentence is identical. The only thing that changed was the verb, feared versus advocated. But to correctly resolve the pronoun they, you need semantics.
You need to understand the meaning.
You need the context.
Yeah.
The real-world behaviors of politicians and protesters.
And this is exactly where the artificial agent fails.
Because it doesn't know what a protest is.
An AI doesn't understand what a politician is, or what a permit is, or the emotional concept of violence. It is merely a syntactic engine.
It's just looking at patterns.
It maps statistical probabilities of word associations based on massive data sets. It can mimic understanding by predicting the next most likely word in a sequence. But it has no internal model of the world. It operates entirely in the dark.
So this brings us to a massive paradox then.
Let's hear it.
If these machines are as dumb as a refrigerator, if they operate entirely in the dark without any contextual understanding of the world, how on earth are they succeeding so spectacularly outside of the digital realm?
Ah.
I mean, how does my robotic vacuum, which we established earlier, is navigating my living room? How does it clean my house without getting confused and setting the rug on fire? It's interacting with the physical world flawlessly.
It succeeds because it is not adapting to the complexity of our world.
Wait, what do you mean?
We are fundamentally changing the environment to suit the profound limitations of the machine.
Like the couch legs.
Like the couch legs.
Yeah.
Flaherty identifies this as the logic of enveloping. And this is arguably the most important concept to understand if we want to retain our humanity in the 21st century.
Let's really spend some time dwelling on this. Because when I read about the dishwasher analogy, it was an absolute aha moment for me. It completely reframed how I view technology.
The dishwasher is the perfect foundational example of enveloping. Think about the cultural imagination of the 1930s or the 1950s. When people in the mid-20th century imagined the future of automated domestic labor, when they imagined a machine washing their dishes, what did they picture?
Oh, they pictured a humanoid robot, like Rosie from the Jetsons.
Yes, exactly.
A metallic maid with a torso, 2 arms, and a visual sensor, just standing at the kitchen sink. They imagined a machine that would pick up a sponge, apply soap, recognize the difference between a delicate wine glass and a cast iron skillet, and scrub them exactly the way a human does.
Exactly. They imagined an artificial agent that possessed enough intelligence to adapt to a chaotic, human-designed environment. The open kitchen sink.
Which is really complicated.
It's incredibly complicated. Creating a robot capable of that level of dynamic spatial reasoning, tactile sensitivity, and visual recognition is incredibly difficult. The physics of water and soap in an open environment are a computational nightmare.
So we didn't build Rosie the robot. We cheated.
Well, we didn't cheat. We engineered a brilliant workaround.
We enveloped the problem.
We abandoned the idea of an intelligent robot adapting to an open environment. Instead, we built a three-dimensional sealed box, an envelope.
The dishwasher itself.
The dishwasher. We completely controlled the environment inside that box. We standardized the racks. We managed the water pressure and the temperature perfectly. And inside that highly controlled, rigidly structured envelope, we placed an incredibly stupid robot.
It's literally just a spinning plastic arm spraying boiling soapy water in a circle.
That's all it is.
It has zero intelligence. It doesn't know it's washing a plate. It's just spinning.
But because we designed the envelope perfectly around the limitations of that spinning arm, this stupid robot succeeds flawlessly. It cleans the dishes better than a human could. We envelop the task.
Okay, that makes perfect sense for a kitchen appliance. But the terrifying part is that we aren't just enveloping dirty dishes anymore.
No, we are not.
We are taking that exact same logic-building, rigid, standardized boxes for dumb robots, and we are applying it to the entire physical world.
We are enveloping human reality.
Give me a big example.
Look at global commerce. If you step inside a massive Amazon fulfillment warehouse, you are not stepping into a human environment.
It's not built for us.
Not at all. The lighting isn't designed for human eyes. The temperature isn't optimized for human comfort. The floor is an immense grid embedded with QR codes and sensors.
It's a giant box.
The entire multi-acre facility is a three-dimensional envelope designed specifically so that thousands of low-intelligence Kiva robots can navigate flawlessly at high speeds.
So the robots aren't navigating a human world.
The humans who work there are forced to navigate a robot world.
Wow. And it doesn't stop at warehouses. We're doing this to our infrastructure.
City planning, yeah.
When we talk about bringing driverless, autonomous cars to our cities, we aren't just dropping them onto the chaotic, unpredictable streets of Rome or Boston and expecting them to figure out like a human teenager learning to drive.
Because they can't.
Yeah.
They lack the semantic understanding to anticipate a child chasing a ball into the street or a cyclist making an erratic hand gesture.
They just see pixels.
Right. So instead, what do?
We lobby to rebuild the city.
We advocate for smart infrastructure.
We embed sensors in the traffic lights. We propose dedicated, highly regulated lanes exclusively for autonomous vehicles, physically separated from messy, unpredictable pedestrians.
We are trying to turn the open streets into a controlled envelope.
And as I mentioned in the very beginning with the couch, we are even enveloping our own private, intimate spaces.
The Roomba.
When you buy a specific sofa with higher legs, just so the Roomba can fit underneath it, you are actively redesigning your domestic environment to accommodate the limitations of a mindless machine.
Which raises a really chilling question.
What's that?
If we're actively rebuilding the physical world, our streets, our workplaces, our living rooms, to accommodate digital machines, what does that do to the human experience of reality?
It feels like the boundary between what is physical and what is digital is just collapsing entirely.
It is collapsing. And this brings us to a major paradigm shift in how we actually experience daily life. Historically, we maintained a very clear geographic boundary between the physical realm and the digital realm.
I remember this vividly from the 90s.
The dial-up days.
The concept of being online versus offline was a physical reality. You had a specific room in your house, the computer room.
Right, the desk in the corner.
You physically sat down at a bulky desktop machine. You double-clicked an icon. You listened to that awful screeching symphony of the dial-up modem handshaking with the server, and boom, you were online. You entered cyberspace.
It was a destination.
And when you were done, you disconnected, you walked away from the desk, and you were firmly offline. The digital world was a place you visited.
Today, that distinction is entirely meaningless. It is a relic of a bygone era.
Oh, totally.
If you ask a teenager today if they are online, they won't even understand the premise of the question. Our devices are constantly tracking our geolocation, monitoring our resting heart rates, pinging servers in the background to update apps, listening for wake words.
Even when the phone is in your pocket.
You can be walking through a dense physical forest miles from civilization, but if you are wearing a smartwatch that is logging your biometric data to a cloud server, are you offline?
No, you were both.
Exactly. Floridi introduces the concept of living on life.
Onlife, ungluing and regluing the worlds.
Yes. The digital and the physical presence and location have been completely unglued from each other and pasted back together in a new configuration.
So presence and location aren't the same thing anymore.
Historically, to be present somewhere, you had to be physically located there. Now, you can be physically located in your kitchen in London, but digitally, interactively present in a boardroom in Tokyo via a holographic or high-definition telepresence system.
While simultaneously interacting with a smart speaker that is processing your voice in a server farm in Iceland?
So we exist as what Floridi calls informational organisms, or inforgs, living inside a pervasive, inescapable infosphere.
Infords in the Infosphere. It sounds like sci-fi, but it's just Tuesday.
It is just Tuesday, and to help visualize this new ecology, Floridi uses an absolutely beautiful botanical metaphor.
I really like this one.
He says we no longer live in a world of separate rivers and oceans. We live in a mangrove society.
Mangroves. Those are the trees that grow on the coastlines, right? With the massive tangled root systems that stick up out of the water.
Exactly. Mangroves are unique because they thrive in brackish water.
Brackish water, meaning a mix.
Brackish water is the precise ecological zone where the fresh water of a river flows into the salty water of the sea. They mix together to create an entirely new environment.
So you can't separate them.
If you are standing waist deep in a mangrove forest and someone asks you, is the water you are standing in sweet or is it salty? The question itself is absurd.
Because it's inherently both. The distinction has dissolved.
Exactly. In our modern hyper-historical society, asking if our experiences, our friendships, our banking, or our political systems are analog or digital is like asking if the mangrove water is sweet or salty.
It just doesn't make sense anymore.
When you transfer money via an app, is that a physical transaction or a digital one? When you maintain a 5-year relationship with a friend exclusively through text messages and video calls, is that an analog friendship or a digital one?
It's just a friendship.
The reality is inherently a blend of both. They're completely intertwined. We are living on life in the brackish water.
Okay, I love the mangrove analogy, but I have to stop and push back here because this paints a somewhat passive picture for us.
How so?
If our reality is just this endless brackish blend of data and physical space, and we've already established that these incredibly efficient high-agency algorithms are doing all the processing, sorting, and enveloping of that space, where does that leave us?
It's a fair question.
Are humans just becoming passive data subjects? Are we just fleshy batteries floating in the brackish water while the machines do all the heavy lifting and shape our environment?
That is the ultimate existential fear of the 21st century. But Floridi passionately refutes that dystopian vision.
Oh, good. I need some hope here.
And his defense relies entirely on that divorce of agency and intelligence we discussed earlier.
Okay, mind me.
Because machines have zero actual intelligence, they lack the one capability that is essential for the universe to have any value. They cannot generate meaning.
Oh, dang it.
They can crunch trillions of numbers, they can sort data, they can optimize a supply chain, but they cannot assign significance to any of it. They do not know why they are sorting the data. Meaning is the exclusive, vital, and irreducible domain of humanity.
So if machines are merely syntactic engines, just blindly shuffling mathematical symbols around according to rules they don't understand, then humans serve a completely different function.
Yes.
Floridi calls us semantic engines.
Precisely. The word semantic relates to meaning in language or logic. Humans survive, adapt, and thrive not just by processing raw data, but by giving meaning, context, and sense to their experiences.
We're not just hard drives.
We don't just record events like a hard drive. We interpret them. We feel them. We contextualize them within a broader narrative.
There is an analogy in Floridi's work that I found incredibly poignant regarding how we actually generate this meaning. He compares human beings to spiders and oysters.
It's a beautiful biological parallel. Explain how the oyster works in this context.
So an oyster does not seek out a grain of sand. A grain of sand is an intrusion.
It's an accident.
It is raw, chaotic, irritating data from the outside world that breaches the oyster's shell. It causes friction and pain.
Right.
But the oyster doesn't just passively accept the irritation. It reacts biologically. It secretes layers of nacre mother, of pearl coating, that sharp, meaningless grain of sand over and over again.
Smoothing it out.
Right. Until it transforms the irritation into something smooth, beautiful, and valuable. It creates a pearl.
And that is exactly what the human mind does with the chaos of existence.
We made pearls.
The universe constantly throws random, chaotic, often painful events at us. Illness, serendipity, loss, discovery, those are the grains of sand.
The raw data.
And humanity reacts by semantizing the world. We wrap that chaotic data in narratives, in art, in religious frameworks, and scientific theories and philosophy. We secrete meaning. We turn the raw data of existence into pearls of significance.
And when you take all of those individual pearls, all the meaning generated by billions of humans over thousands of years, you get the central concept of this entire deep dive.
You get semantic capital.
Semantic capital, the true wealth of humanity. Let's really define that comprehensively. What exactly is it?
It comprises absolutely everything we use to make sense of the world. It is the languages we speak, the scientific discoveries of our ancestors, the classical literature,
The religious traditions.
the legal framework, the music, the art, and the foundational narratives that we inherit when we are born. We inherit this wealth. We hopefully enrich it during our own lifetimes by adding our own pearls, and we pass it on to the next generation.
It is the fundamental, invisible glue that holds a society together.
And to understand just how vital semantic capital is to human survival, we have to look at what happens when a society is physically destroyed.
Okay.
Floridi uses a striking historical comparison to illustrate the resilience of semantic wealth versus physical wealth. Think about the city of Berlin at the end of World War II in 1945.
The city was just a wasteland. The physical capital was entirely gone.
Destroyed.
Buildings were reduced to rubble. Infrastructure was decimated. The economy was non-existent.
It was a total physical collapse, but the semantic capital of the German people survived.
Because it was in their heads.
The language remained intact.
Yeah.
The institutional memory of how to engineer, how to build, how to govern, the cultural identity, the literature, that semantic wealth survived within the minds of the survivors.
And because of that,
Because the semantic capital survived, the physical city could be entirely rebuilt in a matter of decades. Meaning is the blueprint.
now contrast that resilience with a different kind of tragedy. A few years ago, the National Museum of Brazil caught fire.
A truly catastrophic event.
The physical loss of the building itself was terrible, obviously, but buildings can be reconstructed. The true, agonizing tragedy was what was inside.
The artifacts.
It housed unique, irreplaceable records of indigenous languages that had no other speakers. It housed singular historical artifacts and cultural records that existed nowhere else on Earth.
And when it burned,
When those items burned, it wasn't just a loss of physical objects. It was a permanent, irreversible destruction of semantic capital.
exactly. When a language goes extinct or a unique cultural history is completely erased, it cannot simply be rebuilt with bricks and mortar or an influx of cash. It is a permanent loss of meaning. A unique lens through which to view the universe is gone forever.
The human project becomes poorer.
We lose a piece of ourselves.
So we understand the macro level, the grand societal wealth of language and history. But how do we actually build and utilize this capital on a micro personal level?
Right, in our everyday lives.
Because realistically, you and I aren't inventing new sciences or writing foundational religious texts every day. How am I, as an individual, acting as a semantic engine right now?
We do it constantly, every single day, through the stories we tell ourselves. And specifically, we utilize a narrative logic that the ancient Greeks called anagnorisis.
Anagnorisis. It sounds like a rare medical condition.
It does. But it is a profound literary and psychological concept. It translates roughly to realization, discovery, or recognition.
Okay.
In a classical Greek tragedy, anagnorisis is the climax. the turning point where the protagonist goes from a state of ignorance to a state of knowledge. It is the moment Oedipus realizes who he really is.
The big reveal.
But Floridi applies this to our daily psychology. Anagnorisis is the ongoing process of retrospectively reinterpreting our past to make sense of our present.
Oh, I see. We do this all the time. Let me give you a very human example.
Please.
Say you go through a devastating, terrible breakup in your 20s.
We've all been there.
Right. And at the exact moment it happens, it feels like pure, meaningless chaos. It's just a massive, painful grain of sand.
Pure irritation.
But 5 years later, you look back at that exact same event and you say, I understand now. That painful breakup absolutely had to happen because it forced me to move to a new city, which led me to find my true career passion and eventually allowed me to meet the person I'm actually meant to be with.
That is a perfect execution of anagnorisis.
Really, just reframing a breakup.
Yes. And what is so deeply fascinating about that process is what you didn't do.
What didn't I do?
You did not falsify the empirical facts of the past. The breakup still happened exactly as it did. The tears were real. The date was the same. You didn't change the data.
I changed the meaning of the data.
Exactly. What you changed was the meaning. You integrated a random, chaotic event into a coherent, purposeful narrative. You coded the grain of sand in nacre. You created a pearl of meaning.
That is how humans survive psychologically.
Hmm?
If we couldn't retrospectively assign meaning to our suffering or our random luck, we would go insane.
Precisely. And because meaning operates as a form of capital, we can actually apply economic logic to it.
Semantic capital as an investment.
Just like financial investments, not all semantic capital is created equal. We have to be critical about the worth of the semantic capital we consume and the capital we produce.
Let's explore that economic lens, because some semantic capital depreciates instantly. It loses its value the second you consume it.
Yes. Think about the act of doom scrolling on social media.
Oh, guilty.
Looking at endless algorithmic feeds of cat memes or celebrity gossip.
Yeah.
You are technically consuming data. It is semantic input, but it depreciates to zero immediately.
Right.
Knowing what an influencer ate for breakfast today does not help you navigate a moral crisis tomorrow. It provides no structural meaning to your life.
It's the junk food of the infosphere.
Exactly. But other semantic capital appreciates. It is highly productive over time, yielding compounding interest.
Like what?
Engaging deeply with classical literature, taking the time to understand complex scientific frameworks, exploring deep philosophical concepts, or even just having a profound, emotionally vulnerable conversation with a close friend.
Those take effort.
They require friction and effort, but they build robust semantic wealth. You can draw upon that wealth decades later to interpret entirely new, unexpected events in your life.
So if semantic capital is undeniably our greatest human asset, the literal core of our existence, the thing that separates us from the incredibly fast but totally mindless AI, we have to talk about how vulnerable it is right now.
It is extremely vulnerable.
Because living in this hyper-historical, on-life environment, swimming in the mangrove, it really feels like meaning is under unprecedented attack.
It is under severe attack. The digital environment is incredibly hostile to deep meaning. Floridia outlines several severe risks to our semantic wealth in what is often called our post-truth world.
What's the first one?
The first major structural threat is the erosion of meaning through deliberate vandalism and misinformation.
Vandalism. We usually call it fake news.
Right.
And we hear about it constantly, almost to the point of exhaustion. But the analogy Florida uses completely reframed the mechanical danger of it for me.
The wine analogy.
Yes. He compares our shared semantic capital to a beautiful, rare bottle of vintage wine.
Imagine you have a priceless, perfectly aged bottle of wine. It represents years of careful cultivation. Now imagine someone wants to ruin it.
They don't have to drink half of it.
They do not need to drink half the wine and replace it with vinegar. They do not need to dilute it by 50%. All they need is one single, tiny drop of vinegar.
Just one drop.
If they squeeze one drop into the bottle, the entire volume is tainted, the wine is ruined.
Misinformation in the digital age works exactly like that drop of vinegar.
It does.
Yeah.
Because meaning relies entirely on trust. You don't need a propaganda machine that lies 100% of the time to destroy a society's semantic capital.
You just need a little bit of doubt.
Even a relatively small amount of highly viral, deliberately fabricated fake news injected into our shared information ecosystem acts as the vinegar. It deeply depreciates the value of all the true information surrounding it.
It makes the public doubt the validity of everything else. Like, if this video is a deep fake, how do I know any video is real?
It destroys baseline trust. And trust is the absolute foundation upon which all meaning is built.
But there is another threat he mentions, which comes from the exact opposite direction. It's not vandalism, it's an over-reverence.
Musification.
Yes, musification.
Musification is the danger of treating our accumulated knowledge, our traditions, or our classics as fragile, untouchable artifacts.
Locking them away.
Imagine taking your most valuable semantic capital, a great philosophical text, a constitution, a religious tradition, and putting it behind bulletproof glass in a museum. You decree that it can be looked at, admired from a distance, but it must never be touched, debated, criticized, or reinterpreted for modern times.
It reminds me of the biblical parable of the talents.
Oh, that's a perfect connection.
This servant who is so terrified of losing his single coin of gold that he buries it in the dirt, rather than investing it or using it in the chaotic marketplace where it could actually grow.
Right.
If we don't actively engage with our history, if we don't allow our classics to be bruised and argued over to create new meaning for today's unprecedented problems, that capital becomes sterile. It becomes a dead language.
Both vandalism and musification are symptoms of a much larger systemic shift occurring in the hyperhistorical era. They are side effects of a massive change in the morphology of power.
The morphology of power, meaning how power takes shape, how it is structured, and who holds it.
Exactly. Let's look at history again. Historically, power was entirely about controlling physical resources and physical geography.
Land, basically.
The powerful nations were the ones that controlled the gold mines, the oil fields, or the crucial shipping lanes. Power was defined by having a large army to defend physical territory.
But in the Infosphere, where everything is Onlife, physical territory isn't the primary battleground anymore.
No. In a hyperhistorical society, the nature of power has fundamentally evolved. Power is no longer just about controlling the answers or the resources. Power is now defined by the ability to control uncertainty and to control the questions.
Okay, we need to examine the mechanics of this carefully,
Let's do it.
because this goes straight to the heart of how modern algorithmic platforms and search engines operate today. And to clearly frame this analysis for you listening, we're looking purely at the structural mechanics of how these systems work. We are observing the shift in societal architecture, as Flaherty describes it, focusing on the mechanics of information rather than endorsing any specific political narrative.
The structural mechanic is profound. Think about how you interact with the internet. You open a massive search engine or a social media platform. Before you even finish typing your query, the algorithm auto-completes your sentence.
Oh yeah, it kisses what I want.
It suggests what you might be looking for. Your newsfeed is flawlessly curated based on thousands of data points to show you exactly what will keep you engaged, what will outrage you, or what will satisfy you.
The algorithm is managing my uncertainty. It is predicting what I want to know and handing me a pre-packaged answer before I even have to struggle with the question.
And that is the ultimate form of modern power. If a single entity, an algorithm governed by a massive tech corporation, controls the questions that people ask by constantly auto-suggesting them, they effectively control the parameters of reality presented to the user.
They build a subtle, invisible envelope around your mind.
They shape the very boundaries of what you even think to inquire about. You cannot seek out a truth if the algorithm ensures you never feel the uncertainty required to ask the question in the first place.
But that raises a massive, terrifying red flag for our role as semantic engines.
It does.
If algorithms are constantly spoon-feeding us frictionless answers and flawlessly managing our uncertainty so we never have to struggle, are we losing the muscle memory of curiosity? Are we forgetting how to ask the hard, messy, right questions?
That is the exact danger we face. If we allow the machines to manage all our uncertainty, we atrophy our semantic engines. And this brings us to a crucial defensive strategy that Flaherty calls data philology.
Philology, the study of language, literature, and historical texts. How does that apply to data?
Having access to raw data is no longer our problem. We used to struggle with the scarcity of information. Today, we are drowning in it. Humanity produces tens of zettabytes of data annually.
Let's define a zettabyte, just to ground that, because it sounds made up.
It does sound fake.
A gigabyte is roughly a movie. A terabyte is 1,000 movie. A zettabyte is 1 trillion gigabytes.
Oh.
We are producing dozens of trillions of gigabytes of raw data every year. It is incomprehensible.
It is an ocean of noise, and an AI can process those zettabytes flawlessly, But raw data without human interpretation is utterly meaningless. It is just syntactical noise. Data philology is the practice of bringing that massive external algorithmic data back into the human story. It requires applying critical humanistic steady deep thought, classical reinterpretation, and critical inquiry to the data we are handed. We have to interrogate the algorithms.
There's a great example of this evolution regarding public libraries. I love this because it makes the concept so tangible.
Yes, think about the historical function of a public library in the 20th century. What was it?
It was a depository of answers. If you had a question, say, you needed to know the capital of Peru or the boiling point of mercury, you physically walked to the library, you found the encyclopedia, and you extracted the answer. The library held the facts.
But in the Infosphere, your smartphone holds all the encyclopedias ever written, updated in real time. The phone had the answers.
So the building is useless.
No, therefore the physical library as a mere depository of answers is obsolete. To survive and serve a purpose in a hyper-historical society, the library must evolve its function. It must become an engine of questions.
I love that phrase, an engine of questions.
It must transform into a civic space that teaches citizens how to navigate the zettabytes, a place that teaches data literacy, how to interrogate an algorithmic feed, how to critically evaluate the source of a piece of information,
How to think critically.
how to formulate the deep, philosophical, friction-filled questions that a machine is fundamentally not programmed to ask. We must train people to be philologists of their own digital lives.
So let's look at the grand picture here. We find ourselves living on life, navigating the brackish waters of this giant digital mangrove.
Yes.
We are surrounded by incredibly smart-acting but entirely meaningless machines that are constantly trying to envelop our physical world into neat, predictable boxes.
Our semantic capital is threatened by the vinegar of misinformation.
And our ability to ask questions is being subtly outsourced to predictive algorithms. It can feel incredibly bleak. How do we actively protect our meaning? What is the blueprint for building a hopeful, human-centric future out of this chaos?
It requires a massive cultural pivot. Flaherty argues that we need a profound synthesis. We must aggressively move away from the dominant 20th century culture of mindless consumption, the endless, destructive accumulation of physical things, and transition to a 21st century culture of care and stewardship.
And this brings us to his ultimate proposal, what he calls the green and blue synthesis.
The green and blue.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because it entirely flips the conventional narrative on its head. Usually when we talk about nature and technology, we frame them as mortal enemies.
The machine versus the garden.
Right, the industrial complex destroying the pristine forest. But Flaherty proposes a mandatory marriage between the two.
Yes. In his framework, the blue represents the entirety of the digital revolution. Artificial intelligence, massive data processing, the Internet of Things, quantum computing.
And the green.
The green represents the biological reality, environmental sustainability, ecological preservation, and social equity. Flaherty's bold thesis is that they are not enemies. In fact, the blue is the exact necessary tool we need to save the green.
Explain the mechanics of that. How does the digital save the biological?
We cannot solve the massive, complex climate crises of the 21st century with 19th century analog tools. We need the massive agency of AI.
Oh, because it can process the data.
Exactly. We can use the blue immense data processing to build smart electrical grids that route renewable energy exactly where it is needed, millisecond by millisecond, eliminating massive waste.
We can use AI optimizations to revolutionize precision agriculture.
Determining the exact drop of water or fertilizer a specific plant needs, reducing agricultural runoff by orders of magnitude. We can use algorithms to optimize global supply chains, dramatically reducing the carbon footprint of shipping.
It allows us to decouple economic growth from the sheer brutal destruction of the physical environment. We can grow computationally, semantically, rather than just extracting more physical oil or timber.
Precisely. We often treat sustainability and digital ethics as if they are the cherry on the cake, something nice to add on top of a corporate business model if you have leftover budget and want good PR.
Yeah, greenwashing.
Exactly. But Flaherty emphatically states that they are not the cherry, they are the cake. A mature information society must recognize that digital innovation without environmental and social stewardship is a dead end. The blue must serve the green, or both collapse.
So bringing this all the way back down to the ground, to you and me, what does this all mean for us, the individual semantic engines navigating this on-life world every single day?
It means accepting what we might call the ultimate responsibility. We must constantly remind ourselves of the fundamental divorce between agency and intelligence.
The refrigerator.
The refrigerator. AI is a breathtakingly powerful reservoir of agency. It can do almost anything we ask it to do, but it is completely, eternally devoid of purpose. It has no goals of its own.
It doesn't want anything.
It does not want to conquer humanity, but it also does not care if it flattens our human experience into a standardized gray envelope. It is indifferent.
So the responsibility to steward meaning, to design the human project, to ensure that our technology fosters genuine, messy human community rather than isolating us in digital escapism. That responsibility rests entirely on our shoulders.
We cannot outsource the why to a machine.
A machine can tell you how to build a city, but it cannot tell you why the city should be beautiful. We are the architects of the Infosphere.
We have to be.
Okay, let's take a breath and summarize the incredible journey we've taken today. We started by acknowledging the historical bruises to our collective ego.
The demotions.
The Copernican, Darwinian, and Freudian revolutions displaced us physically, biologically, and psychologically. And now the Turing revolution has proven we are not the unique masters of information processing.
And that pushed us into hyperhistory.
A fragile state where our very survival, our food, our money, our medicine is entirely dependent on digital infrastructure.
But we also learned to separate the science fiction grist stories from reality. AI isn't waking up. It isn't intelligent. It is the ultimate divorce of agency from intelligence.
It possesses the intellect of a refrigerator, and it only succeeds in the physical world because we are enveloping reality, redesigning our warehouses, our city streets, and even our living room furniture to suit the rigid limitations of machines.
We recognize that we live on life, swimming in the brackish, inseparable waters of the mangrove society, where the digital and physical are one.
But in that brackish water, we hold the ultimate trump card. We are the semantic engines.
The pearl makers.
While an AI can seamlessly process 35 zettabytes of data without a second thought, it cannot understand a single ounce of significance, value, or purpose. It cannot feel the irritation of the sand, and it cannot build a pearl.
Our greatest asset is our semantic capital, the wealth of meaning we build, the classical narratives we preserve, the psychological coherence we construct through anagnorisis, and the deep questions we force ourselves to ask.
We must fiercely protect that capital from the vinegar of fake news, and we must refuse to let it stagnate in a museum.
We must become data philologists.
Interrogating algorithms. And we must marry the blue of technology to the green of our world to shift from mindless consumption to genuine care.
The real risk facing humanity isn't a cinematic war against Terminators with laser rifles.
The real risk is quiet. It is the temptation of trading our rich, messy, beautiful, complicated human intelligence for frictionless machine efficiency. It is the danger of flattening our vibrant world into a series of predictable, standardized envelopes just because it's easier.
Which leaves us with this final thought to carry with you.
What's that?
The next time you open an app and your smart device perfectly, frictionlessly predicts exactly what you want to buy, the exact video you want to watch, or the exact article that will hold your attention, stop for a second and ask yourself this.
Okay.
It knows perfectly what you want, but does it have any idea why you are? What unique, brilliant pearls of meaning are you actively building out of the friction, the pain, and the joy of your everyday life? And ultimately, are you consciously designing your own chaotic, beautiful future, or are you just letting a machine's envelope quietly design it for you?
Thank you for exploring this deep dive with us today. Keep asking the big, messy questions.